I'm Cody from Game Life Balance US, a proud member of the GonnaGeek network, just like the one you're listening to now. The opinions expressed are those of each individual. Check out all the other geeky podcasts at GonnaGeekNetwork.com and get ready because geekiness begins in 3, 2, 1.
This is it. The part of your week where you get to put your headphones on, relax, and listen to a bunch of geeks geek out about geeky things. They're passionate.
Did you know Magic Mike XXL is actually on the top 25 list of this year's best movie?
They're witty.
He loves him some Katy Perry because she kissed a girl and she liked it.
They're crazy.
I like Nickelback personally, but, I'm the fuddy-duddy who likes episode 1.
And sometimes they leave you wondering, what the f***?
I'm pretty sure that here we were starting the hashtag movement, bring back Slave Ferrell.
Welcome to the GonnaGeek.com podcast.
Hello and welcome to episode 155 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast. My name is Jondrew and we are recording this today on a special day. It's being recorded on Sunday. It is after All Things Good and Nerdy and before Pop XCast because I will be away tomorrow. And guess what? That means that everybody thinks that I'm more important than them, including JS.
Yes, I do think so.
We also have Chris Ferrell, who thinks that he is less important than me.
Meh, I'm just happy we got 3 shows worth of content going on a Sunday on Geeks.live. How awesome is that?
That is absolutely fantastic. Almost as fantastic as how great SP thinks that I am.
I think you're so great that I am podcasting injured today. Yes, that is true.
What?
I broke a tooth yesterday.
Oh, that sucks, man.
That really sucks. And I just hope that it didn't happen while you were partaking in any activities, because if you were, you should sue the activity that you were partaking in.
Yeah, I was indeed partaking in a specific activity at that point in time. I was eating while I was watching Nerd Alert News number 46. So Nerd Alert News will break your teeth.
But you were watching that on the GonnaGeek YouTube channel. So the GonnaGeek YouTube channel broke your tooth, not my little show.
It never happened when he was watching any of the other shows. So I
That's right.
back to Nerd Alert News. And that should be your new slogan.
Since we're part of a podcast network, the network is responsible for all liabilities.
Aw, crap.
I gotta go. Bye, guys. So yeah, we are doing this on Sunday, and I'm just kidding. As you know, I do the switching, and I just want to say, I gave these guys the option of going on Hangouts on air tomorrow just without me, and they said let's do it on Sunday. We did that after. If you watch the live stream at Geeks.live, you heard us talk about that, and thank you guys. I appreciate us making it for an interesting and somewhat challenging Sunday just to include me. I really do appreciate that, guys. So my sincere thanks.
You got it, boss.
Cheers.
You got it.
So like I said, we are part of the GonnaGeek network, and we do stream great content to, well, maybe not great. We stream some content to Geeks.live, but on Geeks.live is a bunch of great content, and please do check that out because we usually, when everybody's schedules are simmered, like i.e. post-summer, we do have content 6 days a week on Geeks.live. And when Chris does stream his Nerd Alert News, it becomes a whopping 7. So 7 out of the 8 days in the week.
Dude. Wow.
So please do check that out and check out all the other great content on the GonnaGeek network. But let's just go ahead and dive into our news. Here we go.
Let's dive in.
All right, let's talk about news and some somewhat important news. This is some news that did come out yesterday via San Diego Comic-Con. There's a bunch of stuff coming out, of course, because of SDCC, which, by the way, really, really neat creative things that I've seen down there. For example, AMC did like a wax figure replica of the season finale scene. really cool.
Oh, that's cool.
It looked really good. They had the trailer and they had everybody on the ground in line. It was really, really well done, and it looked like the people too. You know, yeah, if you go to one of those wax museums, was better. Those are better than what they had there, but it still like absolutely resembled all of the actors and actresses. So it was really cool. Saw a photo of that.
Was this outside in San Diego?
No, I believe it was actually inside. It might have been mini eyes or miniature. I couldn't tell. It was like you could see people, but I just couldn't tell with the scale if it was just camera perception or whether it was slightly smaller than actual life size. But it was pretty big, whatever it was, which was really neat.
Well, that's good that it wasn't outside, because if it was outside and there were wax figures, it's San Diego, it's hot there, so they would probably be melting like real zombies.
I could be
do
making
they make
that
wax
up.
figures out of wax, though? Is it still wax, or do they use some type of weird substitute?
I don't know. That's a great question, and one that we should investigate in a future edition of GG 2020. That's a new show that we're going to do. Chris is going to do.
I thought it was GG Investigates.
Sure, whatever. But yes, the news that I want to talk about is the announcement of the new Star Trek series. That's right. They did give us a whole whack load of new information on the new Star Trek series. The one that we got the teaser on. I refuse to call it a trailer. The teaser on a little while ago. It does have a name. That's right. The name is actually going to be called Star Trek Discovery. We got a small little, again, I'm going to call it a teaser. I don't believe it's a trailer. It is a video of some CGI of the new ship from Star Trek Discovery. Now, in my opinion on this, the CGI, it reminds me a little bit of Enterprise, but it does seem a bit unfinished, or maybe even like early Enterprise, because it has that sort of odd look that Enterprise had, that even Voyager didn't really have. Like, I don't know what it was. It was more texturized, and it just didn't fall in line with the traditional imagery of Star Trek, because, you know, the traditional was all actual models. I'm not sure. Something reminded me of Enterprise, but it did, in my opinion, look a little unfinished. But the ship that they've shown is very odd. A very, very odd look. Chris, what did you think about this?
I was just happy to get more details on the series, and it's not a ton of stuff because they haven't even cast anyone or anything like that, but I like the idea of Discovery being the name. That's kind of paying homage to Voyager, is what they'd said in some of the interviews, because it's going to be all about exploration and stuff like that. And with Bryan Fuller in charge, I feel good about it. Now, the ship design, I don't think we saw a final version of it. That's obviously rough right now, I think, and we'll see more as we go forward. And honestly, I just trust Bryan Fuller.
Do you fully trust Bryan Fuller?
I do. He's a very good showrunner. He's done some good shows in the past, and I think he's a smart guy, and he'll do good work with this series.
I'm afraid. I won't lie. I'm afraid. I was okay with it being in the Kelvin universe, but if it's not in the Kelvin universe and it's post original series, I don't know.
So that will be interesting to see which universe it is. I don't think it's been confirmed.
It's already confirmed.
Oh, is it?
It was confirmed at San Diego Comic-Con. It takes place in the Prime universe, i.e. not where Spock went back in time and set everything into different motion. So the movies do not impact the series. And from one point, I understand why they did that, because you don't want to be sitting there going, oh crap, the new Star Trek movie's coming out and it's going to screw with our series, because that's the problem that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Marvel side has right now, is they've got to be able to counter that. So by putting it back in the original time frame, you remove that aspect, and you also make it so that some of the fanboys who are really mad, they get back to their original Trek that they like, where they don't feel like everything got thrown out.
Yeah, I'm actually okay with it, because I think...
Are you really?
I am, and I'll tell you the reason why I'm okay with it, because that itch has always remained. I've been a huge fan of the Star Trek movies, and I know a lot of people have not been, but I grew up really, really loving the TV series, and I was a big Next Gen boy, but I really did like them. And even though I very much enjoyed both movies, I don't care what Chris says, I still really wanted to see a little bit more in the old universe. And this will be very interesting to see. The only thing, now that you've told me that it is in the old one, the only thing that I have is I don't like necessarily the concept of having it so early on. I always like the idea of I had a hard time. What I'm trying to say is I had a hard time when they brought Enterprise in, because it was like the beginning of Trek for me was always TOS. And then we got this whole backstory before, and there was a lot of things that actually worked out really well and it panned out. But I kind of would rather have seen that early Trek be left at Enterprise and TOS.
Yeah, I mean, the speculation this is taking place between those series. Well, I don't know that that's been confirmed.
So it could be Enterprise C times. It could be, post movies.
Yeah, they haven't confirmed a time frame yet. That's just been teased that it is coming. The speculation is between original series and Enterprise, though.
Yeah, and
that's cool. That's cool. I'm okay with that.
I'm not sure. I don't know how I feel about that. But just SP, what do you think of this?
So Chris brought it up before that Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Netflix Marvel series have a very difficult time intertwining themselves into the movie universe, because the movies have to be produced so far in advance. So there's very little opportunity for the crossover to come from the show to the movie. Now, the movies can interact back and forth back into the show, no problem, because that is done, quite frankly, on a weekly basis. I know it's a little bit longer time table than that. So when you look at this new Enterprise or Star Trek series trying to interact with the new movie universe with all the continuity they have out there, I think this is a good, ingenious way forward on how to deal with those time periods and how to interconnect back and forth, because there is another Star Trek movie that has been greenlit. Star Trek 4 has been greenlit. So they're going to have to figure out a way, if it was in the same universe, to try to integrate that back and forth eventually, because eventually you run into time issues, and there's been so many different universes within Star Trek already. I'm just glad to have another Star Trek TV series that I can hopefully watch. We'll see. We've talked about the issues with the CBS app and stuff like that. So I'm cautiously optimistic at this point in time. A little bit of excitement of the series is actually coming out versus the poo-pooing that I might have been doing before. But we'll see. You have to try some stuff. You have to throw up on the wall, and you have to see if it sticks. And if it doesn't stick, you move on to something else. You just hope that it doesn't kill the IP.
That's exactly my fear. I just hope that they make something that, even if it doesn't appeal that much to Star Trek fans and more to a wider public, as long as it lasts long and it's entertaining, we're getting Star Trek content. I don't think the next generation would still be successful in this day and age. I definitely don't think Voyager would be successful in this day and age. So they definitely need to figure something out.
And what they say that they're doing is they have said that it will not be of the episodic style of storytelling. It will be more like telling a story through a novel. So I actually always liked that, even when it was Deep Space Nine and they started to do the huge arcs, like the huge season arcs. I thought that worked really well, and it was a fantastic fit for Star Trek. So I'm glad to hear this, and I do hope that it pans out as well as it did in some of the previous series.
So I think it's a smart move setting it separately, because I saw Star Trek Beyond. I won't get into spoilers on it. It finally found itself. Star Trek Beyond is very good. I don't want them to do anything that could potentially make Star Trek 4 not be good, and having to try and tie a TV show into the movie universe and things like that. I don't like any opportunity that it could make Star Trek take a step back, because Star Trek Beyond is that good. It is really good. Go and see it immediately.
I've heard that it's like everybody is loving it. So I'm excited to see it when I can.
I will say something some may consider blasphemous. I enjoyed Star Trek Beyond more than Civil War.
Wow. People are saying it's a great sci-fi sci-fi movie.
Yep. I've heard that from a couple of people.
Which I'm very fearful, because it's out now, so I'm sure my fears can be laid to rest. But it was the director of the Fast and the Furious, if I'm not mistaken, who directed this movie. And Fast and the Furious rubbish TV movie.
So
rubbish.
the director is Justin Lin, who's known for kind of making the Fast and the Furious go to more mainstream. He's got a real good eye for action pieces. You know, when the trailer came out, we all kind of poo-pooed the whole, why is Captain Kirk driving around on a motorcycle thing? They make it work in the movie and it makes sense. You're like, oh, okay, I can see why that happens. The thing that Justin Lin did perfectly, if you've watched the Fast and the Furious movies, he's very good about showing that sense of family that all of those characters have, how they're not just a bunch of characters that hang out. They're like a family. He carries that over to Star Trek Beyond. Instead of just having crewmates that sometimes interact, the crew is like a big family in this, and that family element makes it work. It's very, very good. And he gets to play with characters in different ways than they have in the past movies. Instead of being all Kirk and Spock, now it's about all the crew and really great interaction between some of the characters. All of these Spock and McCoy scenes are fantastic in this movie.
That's awesome. Very, very cool. And I think that I think that that's the type of thing that we really did need to see with one of the Star Trek movies, is you basically universal love of it, because it has been very divided. There have been people like myself who have quite enjoyed them, even when they have gone and they've simply just redone previous movies. And then there's been people who just are just like, no, this is terrible. And one of the greatest compliments that I think is that I've heard came from Steve Boyd, who we've had on this show before and we used to podcast with. He said that it is probably one of his favorite science fiction movies. I think that is really cool. Really cool.
I'm very curious what you guys think about it when you get a chance to see it.
Awesome.
So I pulled up the Rotten Tomatoes score, and the audience score right now with 39,614 ratings is 86% in favor. So 80%, 6% liked it. And just to contrast that with something that we all know, is that the Fantastic Four 2015 movie with a user ratings of 136,719, 19% liked it. So there you go. There's your dichotomy.
All right, well, let's go ahead and move on to our next news point, which comes courtesy of someone who likes space. I don't know. We need something, because your name starts with SP. We need like some form of crazy like SSSS, like, I don't know, SP Space Symposium or something like that.
We already have the SP Space Symposium for my segment.
I mean, whoops.
Jeez, what kind of producer are you anyway? You don't even know the segments on your own show.
I'm kidding. Go ahead with your space news that you have today, where you want to talk about spaceports and studying SP.
That's right. So a couple weeks ago, there was news out of Farnborough, England, and the British government had awarded a feasibility study to 5 teams that want to operate orbital or suborbital launch vehicle from British territory on a commercial basis. Now, this is important because, first of all, British territory, that could be like the French, right? Because they don't actually launch anything from France because it's not optimal for their orbital. The best place to launch is to use the Earth's rotation for your advantage and go down to the equator. That's just the best place to launch. And that's why we have our prime spaceport in the United States down in Florida. Well, they're looking at 5 areas or 5 companies that are trying to do a feasibility study as to where would be good to launch and whatever. Now, this is also important because of the international traffic in arms regulations prevents any further development by the UK, which is a signatory to the ITAR, into developing of technology that's like intercontinental ballistic missiles, which, let's face it, there's literally no difference between an ICBM and a rocket body that will go up into orbit. That's part of what the space race was back in the 50s and 60s, people. Just telling you flat out. That's why we went up there, and also to grab the high ground. So it was a strategic issue to go ahead and do that. And once we obtained that, that's why we had to throttle back, and there was no really commercial viability. And we look forward to just trying to figure out what we're going to do with the fact that we're there. But anyway, the Brits really want to look into launching their own stuff from their own territory. So they put out $2 million worth of contracts to look at feasibility. That's really nothing. That's chump change in terms of actual space dollars. But the fact that they're doing this is very interesting because so far they're just part of the ESA and they collaborate with NASA as well. So if they want to launch their own stuff, this is interesting that another country will be entering into the fray of doing it both from a commercial and, let's face it, they're going to use it for governmental purposes as well, which wasn't stated in the article, but that's just SP's analysis that there would be looking at that as well. So there you go. The Brits are going to develop their own Cape Canaveral somewhere, or at least they're looking into it.
The British are coming.
Cool.
The British are coming.
1 if by land, 2 if by sea, 3 if by space.
I listened to an awesome podcast on that, by the way. It's everything I missed in history class. And if you want to learn all about what actually happened that night with 1 if by land, 2 if by sea, go check that out. It's one of their first episodes, like first 10 episodes.
Don't forget 3 if by space.
I believe that's the thing.
3 if by USS Discovery.
There you go.
Everybody knows that the Vulcans changed everything in the past. So there you go.
Velcro as well.
Gotta look
invented Velcro.
I'm cool with it.
Yep.
Well, that's great. No, I actually had not seen this until you put it in the notes, and I think that it's, again, that sort of development that we need to keep things a moving. I always like a little bit of healthy competition in the way of space exploration and space-related activity. So very, very cool, SP. Thank you for bringing that to my attention.
You got it, sir.
All right, let's go to our last news point here, which is I scream, you scream, we all scream at the iPhone, right, JS? Or right, Chris?
Woo! iPhones are the best.
That is true. I always like to bring these stories up because whenever we start talking about Android, iPhone, Windows Phone, things like that, we always get into some fun arguments. And I don't know if you guys have seen, there's a current trend coming out with phones now. It's the rush to thinness. And that rush to thinness, a lot of manufacturers are talking about dropping the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack out of phones. We have seen it happen already once. So before anyone accuses me of being an Apple hater, the Motorola Z just came out with no headphone jack on it. It had a USB-C to headphone jack adapter that came with it. But now there are credible reports that places like Boy Genius Report and other web venues have found that Apple's next-gen smartphone will in fact ship without the traditional 3.5 millimeter headphone jack. Now, this shouldn't surprise you. Apple's always been pretty quick to kill off things they thought were on the verge of becoming outdated. Remember, they killed off Flash, they killed off FireWire, they killed off spinning CD-ROM drives in laptops before anyone else did. So the question is the 3.5 millimeter headphone jack the next thing? I hope not. It's been around for like 100 years, and it is something that pretty much all of us use. About that much.
It's been a long time.
Has it been 100 years?
I don't know.
That's roughly.
What about I thought
Phone
quarter
jack
inch.
has existed for 100 years. My lord, we're getting old.
Okay, so I have to say, when I first heard this rumor years ago, I was like, wow, that sounds like a terrible, terrible idea. I do personally think that how much space are they really saving by doing it? And is it really, really worth limiting? But I will tell you a story that I have from last weekend. As we all know, a couple weeks ago was the wonderful world of Prime Day. And at the very last hour, I was seeing if there was anything remaining that I missed. And there was. There was something that I missed, and it was under $20, and it was a pair of Bluetooth headphones with built-in microphone for under $20. And I'm like, these got good reviews. It might be really good for mowing my lawn, things like that. I'm not going to expect a lot because usually the regular price was like $45. So I bought them, and I haven't tried them yet. But I was away last weekend with family, and I was talking with my brother about this purchase, and he's like, wait, which ones did you go with? And I told him about it. He had bought a pair previously, and then his fiance also liked them, bought a pair. Her parents found out about it, bought a pair. They have
multi-level marketing.
They have absolutely apparently loved them, relatively inexpensive. And that's where I think that if anything goes wrong with this jack removal, they'll just go and they'll offer iPhone users a pair of these, or they'll start including them with the next generation because they are so inexpensive for just, moderate sounding headphones. And I think that's something that people will like it because it's cord free.
Bluetooth headphones blow.
Yes,
the
and
audio
let's be
quality
honest,
is nothing compared to being plugged in.
So
what? Yes, that's true. And what's the point of putting headphones bundled with your phone nowadays? Who doesn't own a nice pair of headphones or multiple pair of
What
headphones?
I'm saying is that you got to think of the average Joe, right? The average Joe is not an audiophile like us, and it depends on the Bluetooth technology. The older ones were really crappy, but a lot of the ones that are in the car actually sound pretty decent now. So assuming it's that technology, I don't necessarily agree with your statement, Chris.
So here's your problem you're going to run into with Bluetooth. Number one, it's another thing I have to keep charged. If my headphones aren't charged, I can't listen to my music. Number two, depending on what it is you do for your real life job, maybe you're not allowed to have Bluetooth on. Where I work, I can't have Bluetooth on. So I can't listen to my music unless... Now, what I had forgotten to mention, supposedly the rumor is it'll come with a Lightning to 3.5 millimeter headphone adapter in there, which is all well and good, unless I want to charge my phone at the same time.
Yeah, but that's, again, I think you're going to see what's going to happen, and people are going to either really not care as much, or you'll start to find that there'll be an accessory that'll allow you to do both. Lightning...
But the accessory doesn't let you charge your phone still. There's a lot of people that get to their desk, they plug in their phone, and they listen to their music on their headphones.
Not yet.
Or stream their music.
But you can bet Lightning is as advanced as USB, if not more. Technically
Motorola
speaking,
didn't do it for the Moto Z.
They haven't, but Apple will be quicker to adopt it. What they'll do if they see that this is
no. Apple will give you the finger and say you're going to do it our way. That's how Apple works.
No,
yes,
and
it is.
You know why?
Yes, of course it is.
I disagree with you 100% because even under Mr. Closed Mind Jobs, he came out. What happened? Oh wait, we have a phone where we can kill the signal by holding it wrong. They gave people a free bumper. So even Closed Mind Jobs.
Wait. After he said, and I quote, "You're holding it wrong," end quote.
I agree 100%, but he still gave it. The Apple is a much more open concept company now, and if it is. If you look at them, they are open. They offer third-party keyboards now. They do a whole bunch of other things. They came and they backtracked on their different phone size. And if all of a sudden this becomes a sales problem or people stops people from purchasing it, you can bet they are going to do something like the micro USB OTA cable where it can charge and supply a second piece of information elsewhere, because that micro USB has that capability. There is a cable that allows you to do that. And
for the nice fee of $29.99, you too can have this cable that Apple will send you because you're pissed off they took out a capability that is essential and core in most other phones. What is the point in taking this plug out other than to be like, I have the thinnest cell phone of all time? Who gives a crap?
No, I agree. I started this by saying I agree that I don't think that it's something that is necessary to be removed. However, with that said, I don't think it's going to be as big of a deal as you two are thinking that it's going to be. I really don't, because I think there's a variety of other ways that people are going to be okay with this, whether it is the Bluetooth, whether it is going to be a low form factor Lightning adapter, because you can bet third parties will go and they'll make ones that are so low footprint. You know that that's going to happen. And I think that most people will probably be okay with it after we get a little more warmed up to the idea.
So what do you want to bet the day this comes out is the day they put out Beats by Dre with Lightning built in already? Come on, they own a headphone company. This is exactly what they're going to do. It feels
they paid $1 billion for.
It doesn't feel right to me. They're stripping out something that is buying them 2 millimeters. Whoop-de-doo. It's a fundamental thing that is used by many people right now. Yes, some people use Bluetooth, but a lot of people plug in their headphones because it's, oh no, I broke my headphones. Let me go to Walmart. I'll buy an all cheapo $5 pair of headphones to tide me over until I get my spares. Bluetooth, you're screwed. The battery's out. You better have a charger around somewhere or you're not listening to anything.
That's true. That's a major problem I'm having now. Battery time.
Okay.
Everything has a battery now.
So let's really go ahead here and let's go to the one of the four of us who actually use an iPhone, and let's ask, what is your thoughts? Because I'm completely shocked here that I am the only one remotely not poo-pooing on this idea.
You should buy an iPhone.
Okay, so I have started to think about Bluetooth headphones for the gym, because that would be my use case, would be for the gym. Right now, I've been using corded headphones in the gym, no problem, or when I run or when I bike, no big deal. I'm thinking about going to Bluetooth headphones, but the charging, the sound quality, the in-ear, I can't do the in-ear, and most of the Bluetooth stuff is stuck in the ear, and I just can't do that. I have a medical condition that's not going to let me do it. Okay, so using Bluetooth headphones is not something that I haven't even thought of. Well, maybe I never will do this. Well, no, I'm going to go ahead and do it at some point in time just to check it out. However, the race to thinness, right? I've got an iPhone 6 Plus. It's got a little bump for a camera. How much of that bump is going to have to be there in the iPhone 7 to obtain the same optical superiority that they have? Because it's physical optics that's the issue. You need space in there.
Yeah, on the Nexus 6, it's pretty bad too. It's the whole back top of the phone is.
See, like this.
Yeah.
I'll hold it up. You can see how it crap.
It's pretty bad.
You see that bump right there? There's a little hump there for the camera optics. When you put it in a case, it's not bad, but they're all doing it now. Like my Samsung phone had a hump where the camera was on there. Like in my case, you can't tell.
If you're going to have the hump for the camera, why not stick the 3.5 millimeter jack in there? Number one. Number two, fit form. I don't want an extra dongle sticking out of my phone. I have a hard enough time putting in places as it is, whether I'm trying to set it in the car somewhere, whether I'm trying to put it on a stand. I don't want an extra little lightning dongle sticking out of the dang thing. So all of that, and the fact that my iPhone 6 Plus is working just fine. Yeah, it's starting to slow down, but I can get another year out of it. And the battery is working just fine. And if the battery starts to quick, I've got the stuff to throw another battery in there. No big deal. So I can wait another year. I was getting excited to look for the iPhone 7 this fall. But if they're going to do something revolutionary like that, which happens every once in a while with the iPhone, I'm just going to wait for a year and see what happens, because I don't want that, extra little antenna bumper that I have to throw on my phone to make it work. Yeah. I want it to work out of the gate. So if they're doing something, I don't want the first generation. I will wait for another year. So Apple, that's one of your loyal customers that has had every iPhone from the 4 on. I want something that will work, and that's something that will, quite frankly, take my 3.5 millimeter jack, because I'm a podcaster and I got a bunch of stuff that operates with 3.5 millimeter.
Yeah.
So let's keep in mind that all of this is based off of rumors that various tech blogs have cataloged and things like that. One of the other things that is coming out in those rumors is that supposedly the iPhone 7 is going to be more of a hardware refresh, just a faster processor and potentially more storage options, but nothing new revolutionary capability wise that would drive people to make the switch. It's more of, it's time for my incremental update, I better do it. So what would concern me a little bit, where Apple, and I'm not, because I don't have billions of dollars in the bank to do whatever I want with, is the fact I'm putting out a phone that's an incremental upgrade that strips out what many might consider to be a core capability. That could backfire a little bit, is my thoughts on it. And I'm not super impassioned. I'm more concerned about where it goes. I do like to argue on this. That's why I brought this up. So I've been having fun arguing about it, but I don't see it as a good move. And I think Motorola is going to realize that as well. I mean, number one, because they're not owned by Google anymore. And number two, because the Moto Z is going to flop. And I don't think it's all because of that headphone jack.
Oh, by the way, let's bring up one more thing, in the fact that most cell phone companies do not subsidize anything anymore. So people that don't have to upgrade, that are looking at this like, I don't know if I want it, they're not going to, because they're going to want to save their money. Because a new iPhone, for me, with the memory that I use on it, it's going to be close to $1,000. And I'm sorry, I'm not going to spend $1,000 on something that's just not going to work for me.
Well, so not necessarily, by the way, because in Canada we still do have subsidies. Yes, it's not huge.
It's not exactly a subsidy. It's a loan.
Yeah, exactly. It's essentially well, no, it is a subsidy. No, it's not, because your plan is. Yeah, we won't get into it. I disagree on that, but it doesn't matter. You're not paying $1,000 up front like SP is saying he would have to do.
No, you're signing a contract that states that if you leave, you have to pay the difference of the balance of your phone.
Yes.
So Apple actually does have Apple has an interesting program in place that they've done themselves. They call it the iPhone Upgrade program, where you buy a phone and you buy it for X dollars per month or whatever. And after 12 months of payment, you can then upgrade to the next phone and just change your payment schedule. So Apple has their own mechanism in place. So if your carriers aren't subsidizing anymore, you just send your monthly payments to Apple. And after 12 months, if you want to upgrade away.
Okay, well, one last thing that I have on this just before we go is I dug it out. My Nexus 5. You think back to the year, what was that? 2013 was it?
2012 or 13.
12, 13. The Nexus 5. Okay. It had that protruding camera that everybody talked about. It definitely had that. The other thing that I remembered about this phone was they took the 3.5mm jack and they actually recessed it more towards the backside to the point that it was almost even on the curve going back. If they're looking to save space, just do that. That is a great way to try to save space. You just push it back a little bit, but I don't see how much are you really going to save by removing the jack when you look at how much buttons take up and things like that. I preface this whole thing, while I don't necessarily think it's going to be such a big deal as people are making, I do think that it's a questionable choice.
It's all about BS marketing. So you can be like, I have the thinnest cell phone in all the land. And who really cares in the grand scheme of things? Those 0.2 millimeters that are shaved off your phone and not have a headphone jack, what is that going to mean for me in my life? Absolutely nothing. It means my phone probably bends easier because it's thinner.
That's true. And I have a feeling if they're smart, they'll make two versions of the phone.
Yeah.
We'll see. Apple's been fragmenting their phones a lot lately, so it's possible.
That's very true.
You can't alienate anymore in this market a whole demographic. And there's a whole demographic of people who are audiophiles and who are not going to want no jack in their phone.
Yeah,
especially if you believe the rumor that Apple's going to buy Tidal also, which is supposed to be the high fidelity music service.
Well, let's go ahead and wrap up the news and move on to SP Space Symposium. But before we do that, I want to remind everybody that we are indeed part of the GonnaGeek Network. And also on the GonnaGeek Network, you heard them at the top of the show, is a show called Game Life Balance US. Now, Game Life Balance US is currently on a slight bit of hiatus while Cody Goff is indeed away. But in the latest episode, John and Cody talk about illegal firework displays. That is a very interesting choice of conversation.
Nice.
So if you want to check that out, please do check that out in episode 23 of Game Life Balance US at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
.com.
That's right. We have ourselves another edition of SP Space Symposium. This is the segment. I was going to say the app. Maybe you can make it an app where SP does talk about the latest and greatest in the world of space and space-related paraphernalia.
Well, this isn't exactly the latest and greatest. This one has been going on a long time, since 1967. But let's ground everybody in what we're doing. We haven't had a space symposium in 9 episodes, so people are a little bit rusty. What we're doing is we're walking down Space Observatory space-based telescopes. And we started off back in GonnaGeek number 124, talking about the Hubble Space Telescope. Yes, my favorite, sarcastic meaning, space telescope. It was great, but it was sucking a lot of resources, so I prefer to think about the next generation of space telescope, like the James Webb, which we talked about in GonnaGeek number 136. We also talked about the Kepler Space Telescope on GonnaGeek number 129. Those are all visual space telescopes. We also marched down a couple of infrared space telescopes. Last time we talked about the Herschel Space Telescope on GonnaGeek number 146. We also talked about the Spitzer Space Telescope on GonnaGeek number 139. Now we're moving on to X-ray telescopes, and as JS called them, X-rated telescopes, right, buddy?
Woo! X-rated!
Woo! And the first one we're going to talk about is the Chandra Great Observatory, the Chandra X-Ray Telescope. This was the third of the 4 NASA Great Observatories that we have discussed on GonnaGeek. The first being Hubble, the second Spitzer, and the fourth will be the Compton Gamma Ray Observatory, which we haven't gotten there yet. But this was, like I said, it was conceived in 1967. That's how old the concept was. And they actually included it in the great observatories to look at X-rays in space. And there is a lot of atmospheric degradation in the Earth, and that's largely due to the Van Allen radiation belt, that a lot more than the atmosphere. And in order to get the space telescope up over the Van Allen radiation belt, they actually have to put it in a highly elliptical orbit. So basically, if my fist is the Earth, then you're talking about an orbit that goes really close to the Earth on one side and then really far away on the other side. And it allows for really large dwell times. You're talking 50, 60 hours on one specific area at any point in time. So that's great. So the orbit starts out at the closest point to 9,900 miles, and that's at the apogee. At the perigee, at the long end, it's 83,000 miles. So it goes up and beyond even the geo belt that we have out there, that geostationary belt, and it in fact is one of the farthest out satellites that actually orbits the Earth. So it was launched in July 23rd in 1999 aboard the Columbia on STS-93. It weighs 10,600 pounds, and it's meant to detect hot gas at 1,000 or 1 million Kelvin. Kelvin is absolute zero, so it is 1 million Kelvin. That's really hot. And it observes the universe's most violent events in detail. If you want to observe things that are really happening explosion-wise in the universe, you have to go into the X-ray, gamma ray. You have to go into that high-end bands of observing. So it's well up above and beyond the visual range or the IR range. So if it is up in space, when it went up in 1999, it actually was able to detect. I've seen two different numbers, one on the NASA website and one on some other website, that it was on the NASA is saying it can sense things that are 20 times brighter or less bright than you could see from Earth, and some other things say it's 100 times more. So it really upped our game in terms of being able to sense X-rays in the universe. It was originally designed with a 5-year lifespan and was upgraded after it started operating to 10 years because they were like, hey, this is working great. We can go 10 years. As you saw before, or as I stated before, it was launched in 1999. It is still operating in 2016. So it has gone 17 years and it is still functioning, at least for now. Eventually, it's going to be replaced. The ESA is looking at a replacement in the 2028 timeframe, and it's called the Athena, for the Advanced Telescope for High Energy Astrophysics. And like I said, it's a proposed launch date of 2028. So there's likely going to be some space where we don't have a great observatory like Chandra in space until Athena can get back up there. But we do have some other telescopes to get through in the X-ray band. So we don't have a complete loss in capability for science. Now, it was named an astrophysicist, and don't ask me to say his whole name. I really can't do it. It is an American citizen, dual American Indian citizen who passed away a few years ago by the name of Chandra X-Ray, and I probably got that wrong, and I apologize to him and his family, but he won the Nobel Prize in 1983 for his theoretical studies for the physical processes of importance to the structure and evolution to the stars. So they don't just name these things willy-nilly. There was a contest to name the telescope, much like Bodie McBoatface. We all like Bodie McBoatface, right?
Bodie McBoatface.
Bodie
right.
Spacey McSpace. Whoop.
Yeah, that's right. But this was named after Chandra. Now, the instrument, it's not a standard telescope. It's not something with a lens and some optics that we were talking about before with the iPhone and the cell phones. It's got this neat Wolter telescope, and basically it's a series of nestled cylindrical geez, words are hard, guys. I'm sorry. It's got parables in there and hyperparabolic surfaces that are made out of heavy metals like iridium or gold. And it has these high grazing angles in order for it to actually sense the X-rays through this really thick glass surface. So it's really neat. If you ever want to look at what an alternative telescope would be, look up a Wolter, WOLTER telescope, and you will see how great that works. Now, some of the great discoveries that the Chandra Observatory has made back in 2000, it actually showed a never-before-seen ring around the central pulsar and jets of the Crab Nebula. And if you've ever seen pictures of the Crab Nebula, it is absolutely gorgeous. And it's about the beginnings of stars and supernovas and stuff like that. So that was awesome. We also found a supermassive black hole at the center of the Milky Way in 2001. And the Chandra Observatory was the one that actually confirmed that. And it was also showed a first light image of the supernova remnant Cassiopeia A, which actually gave astronomers an actual look at what was left at the center of that supernova after it had exploded. So a lot of great stuff. The list goes on and on and on, but that is just some of the great things that we were able to discover with that. So that was the Chandra Gamma Ray Observatory. We're also going to look at the Rossi X-Ray Timing Explorer, the New Star, and the XMM Newton coming up on a future SP Space Symposium.
Well, thank you very much for that. And what I learned today is about Walter White. I learned that, number one. And that
that's right.
That he has crabs. So there you go.
He does.
Have you ever seen pictures of crabs?
that was what I was supposed to get out of that, right?
Yes, of course.
Absolutely. Because it's all about the Steven.
No, seriously, thank you very much for that. And I always enjoy your teases at the end of it, too.
Yeah, there's more to come from. As I mentioned way back in the beginning, we're going to go through all the telescopes. We're going to look at some probes to the actual...
Probing
probe. We're going to probe it with Dr. JS. We're going to probe Proberson. And some other great stuff.
That's right. All right. Well, that is going to take us towards the end of the show. But before we do wrap up here, I want to dive into the past. If we think back, we used to have a segment that was called The Highlight from the Website.
That's right.
Well, why don't we have the highlight from the website much anymore? Truth be told, it's because we don't have a ton of written content on the GonnaGeek.com site much anymore. So if you want to express your geeky ways and get it out there, get in touch with your creative geeky outlet, please do get in touch with me. You can email me, Steven@GonnaGeek.com, tweet me at Steven Jondrew. Just get in touch with me any of the ways that you would like, and we'll talk a little bit further. And we're always looking for volunteers to write geeky content for the site. So please do get in touch with me. And I'm open to up to all sorts of ideas, whether you just want to cover news, whether you want to do a column, whether you want to do something in between. You know, maybe you want to do a little bit of reviews. Just let me know, and we'll be able to make something work, I'm sure, and make sure that we do find a corner on the site for you to get your creative volunteer on.
Volunteer.
SP.
Rebirth.
SP, anything you want to plug?
Just enjoy all the great geeky content we've got at GonnaGeek.com. It is a lot of podcast. I know that Haley, for instance, is getting back on track with Crimson Comet and Like a Girl this summer and really ginning up for the fall TV shows. And if anybody wants to talk like sci-fi and space stuff, really enjoying the Dark Matter and the other show Killjoys that's on Sci-Fi right now. Really enjoyed 12 Monkeys. If you have not watched 12 Monkeys on Sci-Fi, go watch it. Season 2 is done with now, and it's just been an amazing show. Really, it's probably Sci-Fi's flagship show right now, other than The Expanse, which is great too.
But that's good. That's not coming back though. The Expanse. What are they doing? Are they going to continue? I thought it was.
The Expanse is coming back. Yeah, the Expanse is coming back in 2017.
That's awesome. And Killjoy, that's a Simpsons thing, right? Reverend Killjoy, is that? Oh wait, that was Lovejoy. Sorry, my bad. Chris, you got anything you want to promote?
Thanks for arguing with me today, guys. It was a lot of fun. I like arguing on cell phones.
We had to keep you awake.
And I'm completely surprised. I lean towards the positive side with Apple. I don't.
You're going to start the fight again.
Why don't
you just go buy an iPhone and be done with it, Steven, you freaking Apple fanboy?
Buy an iPhone.
I will.
Man. Buy an iPhone.
Buy an iPhone.
I will. I'll also convert to a Mac. Oh wait, I couldn't do anything that any of this setup with it. So never mind.
There's Steven. Steven's back. We got him back, guys.
Frickin' proprietary BS. JS, you got anything that you want?
Nope, there's a lot of stuff I want, but...
Well, why don't you put a call out for it? You know, maybe someone will hook you up. No, I'm just kidding. But there you go. That does take us to the end of episode 155 of the official GonnaGeek.com podcast. I think I'm just going to start yelling louder and louder at the end of the show from now on. For episode 155, I am sincerely thankful that these guys wanted to podcast with me this week.
I want to argue.
Quit screwing up my weekend, Steven.
Tobar! Tobar smash. Bye!
From everyone here at the GonnaGeek.com podcast, thanks for listening. If you like what you heard, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes. We encourage you to send your feedback by email to podcast@GonnaGeek.com. You can find all of our show history at GonnaGeek.com/official podcast. And while you're there, why not head over and check out all of the geeky podcasts on the GonnaGeek Network. The music heard on this show is by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. Thanks for listening, and we will see you again next week.